Welcome back. Having just completed crafting the leather sheath for this knife, I've been looking at the knives that I'm using and considered that it is time to do some knife sharpening. And for this sharpening, I'll be using these sharpening stones. Going to start with a 1000 grit and then move to a 3000 for this sharpening. The knives are in good condition. The blades are not excessively worn or damaged in a way that needs a heavier grit to change the shape. So we're going to start out with a 1000. Going to dunk it in the water here and let it soak in a water bath for approximately 10 minutes. And after 10 minutes of letting the stone soak, I'll start in on the sharpening. And here we are, we're back. The stone has had time to soak in the water, and I'm going to begin with the 1000 grit, doing a sharpening. And the steps that are going to be taken, we're going with a low angle on the Japanese shun knife. So we're going to be about a 17 to 20 degree angle approximately. And the goal is to maintain the angle through the motion and do the sharpening in a way that's kind of like shaving a layer off the top of the stone. And by keeping a consistent angle and by using the shoulders, I'm using my shoulders to get the motion rather than using my wrists to get the motion. So very different than if I were cutting with the knife as far as the movement of my hands. I'm letting my shoulders push the knife and my wrists are staying still. And after about 6 or 8 slices on the stone, I'm going to switch and do the other side. And checking to feel for the slight edge or the roughness that will shape on the opposite side. The top side will become a little bit rough with that process. Now switching to the other side, finding a position here, maintaining the knife angle through the whole motion. And using care that I'm not running my fingers along the blade in a way that would cut. Feeling for that edge again, and the edge being on the upside. So after doing 6 motions on one side, I'm going to switch over and do 5, 3, 4, 5. And switching sides again and going for 5, 5, and switching sides, going for 4, 2, 3, 4, switching, 3 times. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now I'll do a single and a single. And keeping the sharpening stone hydrated, a little splash of water, and moving from sharpening the 6.5-inch master utility knife. Now going to be sharpening a 6-inch classic utility knife. And same process, going to count out 8 strokes on one side, switch sides, 8, and then 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, down to the 1. And again, my attention is on keeping the angle of the knife similar so that the angle is the same between the different strokes. 6, 7, 8. And the motion is being done using my shoulders and elbows to move the knife more than using my hands or my wrists. I'm now switching to the 3000 grit stone, and that will be the finishing grit that I'm going to use for today's sharpening. And once again, the important factors that I'm focusing on is keeping the angle as close to the same angle as I was sharpening before, and I'll use the edge of my finger to kind of gauge a little bit of how much distance there is from the stone, and I want to keep that consistent. And the other thing I'm focusing on is using my shoulders and my upper body to pull the knife in this slicing motion rather than using my wrists or my hands to move the knife through the motion. And at this phase, testing for the edge of the knife is feeling really good. And it feels smooth as I slide from my finger across, not where it would be cut, but as I slide this direction and this direction, that tells me if there's a lip or a burr of metal on either side. And as there is not, it's ready to move to the next step. And the next step is going to be using the leather strop. And here we have a piece of leather that will be used for stropping. Going to reposition the camera. There we are. And this motion is really simple. Even easier than the sharpening motion itself. Instead of slicing forward, it's simply dragging almost backwards, where the dragging motion allows the metal of the knife to fold forward or roll towards the tip rather than being cut. It's being dragged. Almost the opposite motion that's being done on the sharpening stone, and this is being done with about the same angle and with about the same pressure. Just doing a handful of motions on one side, switching to the other, doing a countdown again, Doing 2 on this side. Doing 2 on this side. And a single. And a single. And now the knife is ready to be tested. Doing a little sharpness test with the thumb there. Checks out. And I'm going to obtain a piece of paper and do a paper cut test. I'll be right back. And having obtained a sheet of paper, going to do the paper cut test. And here we are. That is cutting very smoothly, very nicely. Adjusting the camera in, there we are. And cutting very smoothly, cutting very nicely, no dragging, no skipping, no tearing of the paper. It's cutting very effortlessly. Just the weight of the knife is all that it's taking for it to cut this smoothly through the paper. Cutting very nicely. Very pleased with the outcome of this knife sharpening. Thanks for joining, and I will continue working on the other blades and may not do as much talking, but simply going through the sharpening process as I continue on the standard utility knife. And having completed the sharpening and the stropping on the 6-inch classic utility, doing a cut test. Cutting very nicely. It was cutting beautifully. No skips or tears, and just the weight of the knife is moving it through the paper.